Hey friends, today on Gardening with Creekside, I am excited to share with you a whole slew of new perennials that are going to be introduced this year, 2023, to the market. Now you may be going, Jenny, it is February. Clearly you are cold. Why are you talking about, planting perennials? Y'all, it is never too early to start planning your garden for the upcoming season. And depending on where you live, your garden centers may be opening up really soon. I know that that's going to be happening here at Creekside Nursery, right? Mid-February, we are open. We're going to have plants ready for sale. So if you are in warmer climates, you may be able to find these in your garden center right now. That is why I want to share them with you so that maybe you will find one or two or maybe more than that you want to add it to your garden. Now, of course, perennials are wonderful to have in your garden because they come back year after year. Technically, a perennial is a plant that returns for at least 2 years or more. And typically they get nice and larger as each year goes along. So without further ado, we are going to jump right on in to this introduction of these perennials that I am really excited about. Several of these I have had a chance to already grow and trial them last year. Cannot wait to see how they do this year in the garden. So first off, we have the Meant to Be collection of agastache from Proven Winners. Now, there are 2 in this series, and they are such wonderful pollinator attractors, hummingbird attractors, and what I also love about them is that they have gorgeous color late in the season. Now, if you have a nice sunny area and you are in zones 5 to 9, full sun, especially dry, you can have it neglected, then these agastache are going to be great for you. First, we have the Meant to Be Royal Raspberry, and this is a beautiful, like rosy purple color of a bloom. And the agastache, of course, are very upright. They have very lots of multiple stems that have blooms on those top 2/3 of the plant. So the Royal Raspberry, beautiful, beautiful rosy purple flowers with the burgundy calyxes. That means that's what holds the flower onto the stem. It's going to be about 28 to 32 inches tall, so a moderate size, right? So you can put it, depending on your flower bed, either in the middle or the back of your flower bed. Maybe my favorite, just because of how it performed for me last year, is the Meant to Be Queen Nectarine. Now, Queen Nectarine is a beautiful, kind of a soft orange peachy color, nectarine color, of course, and it's going to be a little bit taller, like 30 to 36 inches tall. When you get these in your ground, you've got to have well-draining soil because they hate to have wet feet. Mine were not on irrigation and performed really, really well. But those agastache, especially that Royal Raspberry and that Queen Nectarine, they have such beautiful foliage and flowers for such an extended amount of time in the season that your pollinators just are so attracted to them. Also, they are very upright. They are not floppy and they don't split wide open. So if you're looking for a good pollinator attractor, a hummingbird attractor, something with some good color late in the season that's really, really low maintenance, look for the new Meant to Be series. They are fantastic. Next on the list, we have astilbe, Dark Side of the Moon. Now, Dark Side of the Moon is a gorgeous astilbe with almost pure black foliage on it. It is a stunner. It is also listed as full sun to full shade. This is one of those where you really need to look at your zones and what growing zone you are. Of course, we are North Carolina, a zone 7B. We are very warm and humid. The Dark Side of the Moon is going to be hardy in zones 4 to 9. For me, I know because of my climate and my environment that my Dark Side of the Moon needs to go in more shade. Even though it's listed as full sun to full shade, I need to have about morning sun and afternoon shade. But it is the only dark-leafed astilbe with purple flowers that's on the market. So it has those beautiful dark foliage, gorgeous purple flowers on it. And it just makes a really attractive mound, right? So even when it's not in bloom, you have got beautiful foliage and beautiful structure in your garden. Those dark stems hold the raspberry buds that start with a rosy purple flower. And then they really do, like I said, perform best in full sun the cooler you are, and then as you move down further into your warmer climates, they need more shade and they do like moisture. So whereas our agastache wanted to be more dry, your astilbe needs constant adequate moisture. So if you have a little, maybe a damp area, then that would be a wonderful one to use in your garden for sure. Some of my favorite plants last year were my echinacea. I don't think I have hid the fact that I have struggled with echinacea before in the past. Man, this year just knocked it out of the ballpark, and I really contribute that to planting at the right time, nice and hot, but also planting fabulous stock. So Proven Winners actually has 4 new echinacea that are going to come out onto the market this year. 2 different series. First, we have the color-coded series. And the color-coded, the first one is One in a Melon. One in a Melon has the largest flower blossoms that I have ever seen on an echinacea. It is, I could have my hand out there with the flowers and it just about took up my entire palm. Of course, like its name suggests, One in a Melon, has that beautiful cantaloupe color. So if you're thinking, if you think orange echinacea and you're like, Jenny, that's too harsh, I don't like orange, is too hot for me, that is not it at all. The One in a Melon has really that really soft cantaloupe, almost kind of a orangey peach color to it. So it is very versatile in various gardens. It is going to be about 2 feet tall and about 18 to 20 inches wide. And it's going to be hardy in zones 4 to 8. With me in 7B, I still was able to do it in the full sun because echinacea loves it hot. So they absolutely thrive in really full sun and really warm environments, really nicely. And then the other one that's also in the family is the Fuchsia is Bright. And just like its name suggests, it is a gorgeous fuchsia color. So if you love those really hot fuchsia pink colors, then this is going to be a great one for you. It's going to be a little bit shorter than One in a Melon, 20 to 22 inches tall and 16 to 18 inches wide. Still hardy in zones 4 to 8. Full to part sun as well. But they have a beautiful dark cone, and the stems really contrast really nicely against the brightness of those petals. So this is just, both of these are exceptional performers in the garden. Again, your echinacea tends to be more later in the season. So a lot of times we think, as gardeners, you're like, just give me all of that spring color, right? And it's wonderful, we love it. But we also have to plan for the rest of the season. That echinacea is going to be a fantastic way to extend your flower power in your garden in that hottest part of the summer. So along with the color-coded series, we also have the double-coated. So just as the name suggests, these are going to be double echinacea. So double echinaceas is a double bloom, which has a very unique look to it. Nice full heads with those larger, kind of skinnier petals off to underneath it. So first we have Butter Pecan. Again, a beautiful soft yellow color. It is going to be that soft melon yellow, just depends on kind of how you look at colors. It is going to be 18 to 20 inches tall, 16 to 18 inches wide, hardy in zones 4 to 8. But those textures of a double bloom, again, just work really well in the garden. And you can have these as like a mass group. If you could put 3 of them together or 5 of them together, they really make a really nice display. With the Butter Pecan, we also have the double-coated Raspberry Beret. Raspberry Beret is that fully double, intense raspberry pink flowers that are like 4 inches wide. Beautiful, beautiful flowers, and the petals are a slightly lighter color than the cone. So you've got a little bit of contrast on that flower. This one's going to be the same size as your Butter Pecan, 18 to 20 inches tall, a little bit wider, 20 to 24 inches wide, still hardy in zones 4 to 8, and still in your full to part sun. So really look for those echinacea. I will also recommend that you plant them when you're going into the warm season. This is not a plant that you want to put in the ground in late fall or early spring, because they love the heat and they're most active when it is hot outside. So this is going to be something that maybe in the garden center, it's not going to be available right away because it's not an early flower. It's going to be a little bit later. So make sure you go back to your garden center after the spring rushes over. Maybe it's for us, maybe that's like late May going into June. That's when the echinacea are really going to start to be actively growing and starting to look really nice. So make sure you visit your garden center more than just one time in the spring. Next, we have heucheras. Heucheras, or coral bells, as sometimes people know them as. There's a really fun addition to the Dressed Up series. I love the Dressed Up Evening Gown, which is a beautiful dark heuchera. Well, this year they are introducing Ball Gown. And Ball Gown is really a chartreuse color heuchera. Big, huge, massive leaves on it. That is what makes the Dressed Up series different than other series of heucheras. It is simply the size of the plant and the leaves that are on that plant. So it is going to have those heavily ruffled leaves, does great in the landscape. I know for me, sometimes I struggle with heuchera in the landscape. If you have struggled in the past with heuchera in the landscape, put it in a container. Get a nice big container. You can put other perennials in there or pair it with some annuals. But a lot of times if we have problems with heuchera in the ground, we put them in a container. They do really, really well. And so this is going to have that much more, the leaves are much more scalloped on it than other ones. It's going to be about 10 to 12 inches tall, but 24 to 28 inches wide. It is going to be a beautiful, large plant in your landscape. It is going to be full to part shade. So this is going to be with my shade gardeners. Now, can you imagine putting this ball gown with a dark side of the moon? Oh my goodness, would that not be absolutely gorgeous? You have that dark foliage of dark side of the moon, and then you have the ball gown with those chartreuse leaves. Would be stunning. Hardy in zones 4 to 9. So not only do they get the chartreuse gorgeous leaves, you also get those creamy white blooms instead of pink. So heucheras, add them to your garden. Again, if you've struggled with them in the past, add them into a container, mix it up, and have some fun with ball gown. I'm a huge fan of the summerific hibiscus. And last year I was fortunate enough to grow the 2 new summerifics that are coming onto the market this year. And they were fantastic performers, but out of the 2, there is Lilac Crush and then there is Valentine's Crush. Valentine's Crush, as the name lends it to, is a beautiful, deep, beautiful red hibiscus. Gorgeous green leaves on it and just these massive dinner plate red blooms on it. They're going to be like 7 to 8 inches wide. So, I mean, these summerifics, they don't play around, right? They are absolutely gorgeous. Valentine's Crush is actually going to replace the Cranberry Crush, and really the difference between those two is that the Valentine's Crush has a brighter red than the Cranberry Crush. Fantastic. If you're looking for a beautiful red hibiscus, check out Valentine's Crush. But if I have to be honest, I think out of the two, my favorite was the Lilac Crush. Lilac Crush, gorgeous, soft lavender lilac blooms on it, was a massive performer for me. I mean, this plant bloomed non-stop from, I would say, midsummer for us. They start to bloom around June and went through all the way through the fall. Gorgeous, massive flowers on it that just had that beautiful lavender lilac color. And then even as the day would progress, the colors would actually change a little bit for me. Love this plant, and it's going to have more of an upright habit than a wide habit. Some of these summerifics are wider than they are tall. Lilac Crush is going to be more columnar and upright. Hardy in zones 4 to 9 for both of those hibiscus. And the Lilac Crush is going to be 5 to 5.5 feet tall, but 4 feet wide. So really fun. And remember, your hibiscus do really well in damp areas. The more water that they receive, the better they will flower and the longer they will flower. So if you have a damp area, whether it's from just naturally it's a wet area or maybe irrigation just kind of pulls up right there and you need something that has really big flower power on it, then really look at those summerific hibiscus because they can handle those wet conditions and thrive in those wet conditions. Speaking of gorgeous flower, Monarda. Monarda is one of those classic, just wonderful perennials that is a great performer in our garden. But the old-timey Monardas can sometimes be really like out of control. They get too tall, then they get floppy, they fall over, and they just kind of become a nuisance. They also can spread too much. Well, the new series, the upscale series from Proven Winners, is going to be wonderful because it only gets to be about 2 to 2.5 feet tall, and it really has beautiful flower performance that covers the top half of the plant. So it's not just going to be blooming on the tippy top. Really, the top half of the plant is going to be in beautiful flowers. It is very well branched, it is sturdy, it is not going to fall over, and it has a really good resistance to mildew. So that is sometimes a problem with our Monarda, is that they get that downy mildew. Well, this is more resistant to it. So there's 3 colors in this series. You have lavender taffeta, which has dark purple, lavender purple flowers over a shiny dark green foliage. It is going to be 22 to 26 inches tall, 28 to 30 inches wide. So nice big presence. Then you have the upscale pink chenille, which has 3.5-inch fluorescent pink flowers, light pink interiors, so it has like that two-tone effect on the plant. It's going to be about 20 to 22 inches tall and about 18 to 22 inches wide. And then last is the red velvet. So just as its name suggests, it has large cherry red flowers on it, and it's going to be the tallest in this collection. It has going to be 32 inches tall and 36 inches wide. So a nice big presence in the garden without being a bully, without spreading, and without being too floppy. That would be a perfect one to put in the middle or the back of your flower bed, depending on what you have else in there. Hardy in zones 4 to 8 for all 3 of those, and really the more sun you can give them, the better. It is listed as full to part sun, but I have found with my Monarda, the more sun I can give it, the absolute better it does, and really just kind of needs that consistent moisture. Once they're established, they do really, really well, but look for that upscale series of Monarda. Another great one, phlox, right? We love the Luminary series of phlox from Proven Winners. Well, this year they're going to introduce Sunset Coral. So it has those beautiful pink and orange hues. It has coral pink flowers that have an orange twinge to it really nicely, and that the orange color is especially noticeable when you look at other like true pink flowers, like other pink phloxes. So if you were to put them together, you would see a little bit more of that orange come out. It's going to be about the same height as the rest of the series. So we have Luminary Opalescence, Ultraviolet. So it's going to be about the same size as that. So you can easily work it in with your garden. That 30 to 32 inches tall, 30 to 32 inches wide. So it's really about the same height and width of it. Hardy in zones 3 to 8. And it's going to need the full sun to the part sun. With your phlox, you don't want to crowd those because you want to have good air circulation in that so that you don't get any powdery mildew. So look for the new Sunset Coral. Will be a great addition to your garden and give you that beautiful, huge, massive blooms for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Now, my shade people, we have Pulmonaria Pinkablu. If you're a faithful watcher of Gardening with Creekside, you have seen me talk about Pinkablu many, many times. This Pulmonaria is similar to other pulmonarias in the fact that it is going to be a beautiful shade perennial. It is going to be wider than it is tall, has beautiful dark green foliage with those white spots on it. It is deer resistant because it has a lot of hairy texture to it. But Pinkablu is really fun because the flowers will come out a true pink and then they change to a blue. So on the same plant, you have got both pink and blue flowers. It's going to be an early spring bloomer. Your pollinators are going to love it. And it is just a great addition to your shade garden. And you can put this up close to the front of your border so that you can really see that fun texture and all of those beautiful blooms. It's only going to be 16 to 18 inches tall and then 20 to 24 inches wide. Hardy in zones 3 to 9. Where I am in a 7B, I can do a little bit of morning sun, but then I need shade. If you're in a zone 3, then maybe you can do more sun. So remember, wherever your zones are, the cooler you are, the more sun you can handle. The warmer you are, the more shade a plant is probably going to have especially when it has such a wide range of a growing zone like that pinkaboo in zones 3 to 9. So all my shade gardeners, look for the pulmonaria pinkaboo in a garden center this spring. A fun one that I have never grown, but I mean, I've grown it, but I haven't grown it for years. So I'm still learning this plant. This is a Veronica. This is the magic show ever after. In fact, I have this beautiful Veronica that has lavender blue flowers that's going to be 14 to 16 inches tall, beautiful, nice, long, blooming time period on this plant. So you're going to have really extended flowers on the ever after, and they have weeks and weeks upon of just these gorgeous flowers of this true lavender blue flower. I have it behind a pink Monarda. So we're talking about Monardas and those Veronicas. They pair really well together. The flowers are self-cleaning, so that way you get a fresher looking plant. Some plants, when they flower, then they just hold on to those old blooms and it makes the plant look kind of dirty and old. Well, ever after is self-cleaning. So once that one little flower is done, it will drop and just leaves that fresh new flowers that are there. Very nice, and it is going to be hardy in zones 4 to 8, and it's going to be full to part sun. My 7B, it gets full sun until the late afternoon, and then it will be in the shade. So look for that magic show ever after Veronica. And last but not least, we could not do a favorite perennials without talking about a perennial grass. So we have new on the market, we have Prairie Winds Niagara Falls. Now, this is one I have not grown, but I am so excited to get my hands on it. I have it coming this spring, and we're going to put it in the berm. I am a huge fan of perennial grasses. I think they add such fun color and texture and movement to the garden, and I think those perennial grasses are really underused in your landscape. Now, Prairie Winds Niagara Falls is going to be great for filling in spaces in the landscape. It is going to be 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide. So it has a really nice presence in it. And so it has kind of an arcing like habit to it. It's not completely upright, but it's also not a low and wide one, right? So you have beautiful arcs to it. And it has these beautiful powder blue characteristics to it. So it really has a lot. It's not green, and it has more of those blue twinges, which I think is really important to add to your garden. So Niagara Falls is really going to be fun. Now you think about like size-wise, it is going to be about halfway between the Apache Rose, which we love Apache Rose. I have it in multiple places in my garden, but it's definitely more on the shorter side. Then there's Totem Pole, and Totem Pole, as its name suggests, is pretty tall. Your Niagara Falls is going to be right there in the middle. So about that 4 foot. So it's very manageable depending, even if you have a small garden, that could be the highest thing in your garden. Or if you have a large space like my berm, then it really does fill in those empty spaces. So I am really excited to get my hands on the Niagara Falls and place it in the garden come this spring. So that is it for those fantastic new perennials that I am excited about coming out in 2023. Hopefully you have found one or two that you think you might be able to add into your garden. Again, check out your local garden center. Talk to them, call them, send them a message, ask them if they are going to have these perennials available for you this year. If you would like more detailed information on these, feel free to go to provenwinners.com and just simply type the name in the search bar, and it will bring up all the information you've ever wanted to know with lots of pictures, lots of good maintenance tips, growing tips, and everything, again, like I said, that you would need to know about that plant. So, as always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.